So what I've done now is I've put this entity back in. That way the unit test makes sense again. While doing that though, I did realize that there are some other checking mechanisms that I want to add to my repository as well. And some of these checking mechanisms are a bit of a formality, but one thing that could now happen, for example, is somebody could be editing this file, and that person might leave some trailing white spaces here and there. And again, this is a very minor stylistic issue, but I would like it to adhere to a strict standard. And there are some other tools that might be able to help here as well. In particular, there's this tool called pre-commit that I have set up for this project. Now, the way that this tool works is I can type something like git add, and I can say, well, I want to add this particular test file to Git. And if I were now to call git commit, an automation script will run, and it will perform some automated checks on all the files that I've just added. In particular, one thing that I'm currently checking is whether or not I am trimming trailing white spaces. Sometimes, not always, this pre-commit tool is able to automatically make the changes such that the bad things go away. In particular, we can confirm here that that's exactly what's happening. But this is also one of those extra checks that we can do to make our code base just slightly nicer and perhaps even easier to maintain. The settings for this are saved in a local configuration file, precommit config.yaml. And I won't go too much into detail here, but there's a couple of things that you can put in here, like checking whether or not YAML files are defined the right way. That will just help you maintain a nicer code base. An extra thing that I like about this is that I have this added large file check, which will automatically throw an error every time a very large file has accidentally been added to the project. This is something that will give me something of a safety mechanism against a colleague or contributor suddenly uploading a very large model file. So that's nice. What I have also done for people who want to collaborate is I've added a makefile. And what this makefile will do is it will just make certain commands easier. For example, if you've just cloned this repository and you want to install everything in one go, you can just type make install, and this will automatically run all the installation scripts of all the tools that this project is using. There's also another command called make check, and that will manually run this pre-commit command on our behalf. Another nice property is that I can type something like make test, and in this particular case, test will run only after the checking mechanism has run. And you can imagine that I can define chains of steps that have to follow in sequentiation, and having a makefile in your project in that sense is kind of nice. Now, I wanted to have these changes be reflected in my Github Actions file as well. So I've added some things in here. In particular, the pre-commit command is now part of my tests, but there's one extra thing that I've also added, which is this rasa data validate command. What this command effectively does is it just makes sure that some of your files play nice with each other. It has a look at your domain file and at your data files, and it just tries to look for some common inconsistencies. If it's found one, then this step will be throwing an error. And again, this is another safety mechanism to make sure that less bad things happen to my GitHub repository.